Did you know in the most expensive city in Canada, people are spending almost 45% of their gross income just to cover their mortgage payment? What's the most affordable city to buy a home in Canada? Watch this video to the end of it and I'll tell you what city that is. So a lot of times when you hear people talk about housing markets, they're often talking about like interest rates or house prices. They're always talking about like how unaffordable it is, but no one really breaks that down to find out like how really unaffordable is the market. Like what does that mean for average people? Like how much of their income is needed for them to actually afford a home in their respective market? So I wanted to investigate that to really find out like how unaffordable is Canada's housing market and to kind of put some human touch on it so we can all understand what does it mean when we say a housing market is unaffordable. And that's pretty much what I ended up trying to do with this experiment is I wanted to find out how unaffordable is Canada's housing market and to also find out where is the most affordable place and most expensive place to buy a home in Canada. By the way, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Brighton. I'm a financial coach and the author of the book, Master Your Mortgage, What the Bank Will Not Tell You About Buying the Right Home. This channel is dedicated to teaching you financial concepts that can really help you put your money to work rather than working for your money. If that's something that you find interesting, do me a huge favor and make sure you hit the like button and also make sure you subscribe to the channel so I can keep bringing more content like this to you. To set up the experiment, I basically asked myself, what would be the most affordable place for a young professional to buy a home in Canada? I didn't want to just pick any profession. I picked professions that I thought were really critical to our society, and the professions I decided to pick was a police officer, an RCMP officer, and a teacher. Because to me, if your market cannot provide housing for these group of professionals, you've got much bigger problems. Because if you can't have people who can actually come out to respond to when people are breaking laws or when people need help, or if you don't have people who are actually able to teach the future generations, then you've got a real problem. So before we get to the result, I just want to give an overview on kind of how I set up the experiment. So basically what I did is I assumed that the couple would be an RCMP officer or a teacher, and I assumed that they would just be putting 5% down regardless of the price of their market. Like that's all they would put down. I also assumed that the mortgage rate would be 4.8% and it would be over 25 years for the amortization itself. The couple would be buying their home in the third year of their career, and the reason I did that is because it's unlikely that someone would just start their RCMP job or a teacher's job and like in the first year they're gonna just buy a home. It's likely they're gonna need a couple of years to actually save up for the home. So I decided to just do 3 years. So I took the constable wages for the RCMP officer at the third year, and what I did for the teacher's wages, I just took the information provided by Statistics Canada and I kind of averaged it out to figure out what the third year salary would be for the respective province that they were in. So the RCMP wages were consistent throughout the province regardless of where they were buying a home, but the teacher's wages would kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on what province they were in, because I was averaging what the teachers would make in each of the different provinces, and there were slight differences in terms of what they would make in each province. And finally, for the house prices, I used the information provided by CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, and I used their benchmark price for each of the province and city as of September 2022. With that out of the way, let's get to the result, and we're going to start from the West Coast and work our way all the way to the East Coast of Canada. In beautiful Greater Vancouver, British Columbia, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 44.67% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $1.1 million, with a mortgage amount of just over $1 million, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $6,200 per month. In the Yukon, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 20.69% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $541,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $514,000 and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,900 per month. In the city that hosts the greatest outdoor show on earth, Calgary, Alberta, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 19.03% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $516,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $490,000 and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,700 per month. In Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 14.35% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $377,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $358,000 and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,000 per month. Some people refer to it as the best kept secret in Canada. In Winnipeg, Manitoba, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 12.63% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $339,000 and a mortgage amount of just over $322,000, and a mortgage payment of just over $1,800 per month. In Raptors Nation, Greater Toronto, Ontario, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 41.55% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $1.1 million, with a mortgage amount of just over $1 million, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $6,000 per month. In Montreal, Quebec, with a combined income of just over $13,000 per month, you will spend 21.07% of your gross monthly income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $511,000, a mortgage amount of just over $485,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,700 per month. In the Northwest Territories, with a combined income of just over $16,000 per month, you will spend 12.86% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $385,000, a mortgage amount of just over $366,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,000 per month. In beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia, the city that accepted my family and I when we first immigrated to Canada, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 19.23% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $499,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $474,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $2,700 per month. In the province of Prince Edward Island, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 14.01% of your gross income just to cover the mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $368,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $350,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just shy of $2,000 per month. In beautiful St. John, Newfoundland and Labrador, with a combined income of just over $14,000 per month, you will spend 12.27% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $324,000, with a mortgage amount of just over $308,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $1,700 per month. And finally, in St. John, New Brunswick, with a combined income of just over $13,000 per month, you will spend 10.73% of your gross income just to cover your mortgage payment. That's based on a benchmark price of just over $274,000, a mortgage amount of just over $261,000, and a monthly mortgage payment of just over $1,400 per month. So as you can see with the result, if you're an RCMP officer and a teacher and you're a couple, the best place for you to buy a home in Canada is definitely St. John, New Brunswick, and the most expensive provinces you want to stay away from if you're a teacher and a police officer is definitely British Columbia and Ontario. So in doing this little experiment that I did, I think a couple of things stood out to me. First, I think this idea that Canada has an unaffordable housing market isn't necessarily true. I think what you find out is in the province of British Columbia and Ontario, they have some real problems. Like, these provinces need to figure out what they need to do to make sure that they don't become a place where literally only the people who have money, already own assets, can actually buy a home. Because eventually if they keep that up, people are just gonna move out of the provinces. And myself personally, being a mortgage broker, I've seen this happen. A lot of my clients are moving to Alberta or Saskatchewan because they're moving out of the province of BC because it's just too expensive. So Ontario and British Columbia really have a lot of work to do, and they need to figure out how do we make our place affordable so a person who's an RCMP officer or a teacher can actually live in our city. Because if those people are not living in your city, you have to ask the question, who is living in your city? And I think the answer is a lot of people who already own homes are just more or less buying from each other, because that's the only way you can actually afford a home in these provinces. It's not based on income, it's based on the fact that you already have the asset and then you can just deploy the asset further, right? But when you take away British Columbia and Ontario, you start to realize that it's actually generally still affordable in most parts of Canada to buy a home where you're not going to be mortgage poor. Now granted, I'm using a professional such as RCMP officer and a teacher, and these are high wage earners, right? Like, we're talking $14,000 on average that these individuals will be making in each of the provinces. But still, the idea here is that these provinces can definitely support these kind of professionals, and they can have a good life and buy a home that's still affordable without them necessarily being mortgage poor. Lastly, it's important to note that I just looked at how much of the person's gross income it would actually take for them to service the mortgage debt, right? Keep in mind, I haven't factored in other costs that goes into actually owning a home, such as like property taxes, insurance, upkeeping, like the whole 9 yards. I haven't factored that in. All I've looked at is what's the gross income and how much of that gross income is needed to actually service the mortgage debt itself. So it's important to know that these numbers are realistically going to be higher because A, I'm using gross income, not the individual's net income, and secondly, I haven't factored all the other costs that they have to pay for when they actually own a home. So keep that in mind, that this is just a reference to see how much of people's gross income is needed to actually service the debt, and that's a good place to start, but it's certainly not a reflection of what the total cost of housing actually is, right? So that's it for this video. Hopefully this information was helpful to some of you who are maybe deciding where you want to lay down roots permanently. If you found this video really helpful, do me a huge favor, make sure you like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, and leave the comments below in terms of like, were you shocked in terms of what province was the most affordable province and which one was the most expensive province. So let me know where you are, where you're living, and if this information I provided to you is reflective to what you're seeing in your market itself. Until next time, have yourself a good day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.